question that guys wonder about is, what was the motivation for you to go from a successful private attorney at law with a wonderful practice to bouncing around to here to DC? Was it something in your upbringing? Was it your parents?
I'm an attorney and a CPA, and I went to St. Patrick's Grade School and Chaminade All Boys Catholic High School, and I went to Boston College and studied accounting. I worked for Arthur Anderson and Company, got my 2 years in to get my CPA. Then I went to law school, then I clerked for the Chief Judge of the Eastern District of New York, and then I worked for a big law firm called Sherman and Sterling. And then I was the mayor of my hometown for 8 years, and I was the county executive at Nassau County for 8 years. While I was county executive, I ran for governor of New York, got my butt kicked against Elliot Spitzer in the Democratic primary. Then I lost to Ed Mangano in 2009. Elliot Spitzer didn't turn out very well for me, but it didn't turn out too well for him either. Ed Mangano.
In jail.
So then I was in the private sector for 7 years. I worked for a firm called Lazard Frere, a big investment banking firm. And then my congressman didn't run, and I ran for Congress. I was in Congress for 6 years. Then I ran for governor again against Kathy Hochul. I got my butt kicked again. I was out of politics. I didn't run for Congress that year. And the guy that replaced me, George Santos, became a very famous person. And they kicked him out. And for the first time, the Democrats came to me, because I was usually fighting with my own party, because I was always from the outside, trying to change things. And they said, please run again, please run again. So I ran again. I won a special election. Then I had to run again in November, and won again in November in an election where Trump won my district by 19,000 votes.
Wow.
I won by 11,000 votes. So for me to win, and not everybody votes for president, votes for Congress. So for me to win, at least 20,000 people voted for Donald Trump, also voted for Tom Suozzi. So that's, as a result, I gotta listen to everybody. Okay, I can't just listen to one, my base of my party. Okay, I got some people in my head saying, this is the end of the world. It's the end of democracy. Everything's falling apart. I got other people saying, you got to break some eggs to make an omelet. You got to shake things up. We need some disruption going on. And other people saying, what the heck is going on? Can't you guys just work together? So what made me get into politics? I grew up in a house. My father was born in Italy, came to the United States as a young boy, was the first kid in the neighborhood to go to college. He fought in World War II as a navigator on a B-24. He got the Distinguished Flying Cross, 3 Oak Leaf clusters, 35 missions.
Wow.
And then after the war, he came home and he went to Harvard Law School on the GI Bill. What a country, right? But nobody liked the Italians at that time. The Italians had teamed up with the Germans during World War II. Between that and the Mafia, he couldn't get a job at a law firm, because everybody's like, we don't like the Italians. So he went back to our hometown of Glen Cove, and he teamed up with another Italian guy, and he started a law firm. And he ended up running for city court judge, and at 28 years old, he was elected as the youngest judge in the history of New York State, 28 years old. So I grew up in a house where I saw a picture of my father campaigning with John F. Kennedy.
Wow.
So it was like normal. John F. Kennedy's this famous person when you're a young person in the history books, and there's my father, he's campaigning with him. So it seemed very, very normal to be somebody involved in politics. So I always knew I wanted to be in politics. As a matter of fact, when I was clerking for the federal judge, another guy who was clerking for another federal judge, an appellate division judge, was a priest. He's a Franciscan priest, but he was a lawyer. And I said to him, I don't know if I want to go to politics because I got a big ego and I want people to clap for my speeches, or because I like the competition, I want to prove that I'm right and they're wrong and I'm going to win and I'm going to beat these guys and it's exciting, it's fun, or because I want to make the world a better place to live in. He says, you're a human being. He says, all three of those things are going to motivate you.
Wow.
He says, your goal in life should be to aspire to your more noble ambitions, which is to try and make the world a better place to live in. Now, having done this for such a long time, I could not do this job, which is like, I'm going to Washington right now for, leaving my wife and family behind and going down there to get in all these fights with people. And I couldn't do this job if I was doing it based upon ego or the thrill of the competition. It's not sustainable. It's only that you help people and you make things better and you're trying to fight to make things better that makes it worthwhile to do it. So that's why I got involved in politics. I want to try and help people. I want to make the world a better place to live in. And I'm good at it. So I got listen to all these different voices. I can't just, the problem with America right now is there's 435 seats in Congress. Of the 435 seats in Congress, 380 of the seats are safe seats. You cannot lose because they're gerrymandered, they're drawn in a certain way. You pack all the Republicans over here in 190 seats, you pack all the Democrats over here in 190 seats, and if you're the Republican in the Republican seat and the Democrat in the Democratic seat, you're going to win. You can't lose. Between the gerrymandering, incumbent advantage, raising money, these people are all going to win their seats. As a result, they don't really listen to the people. The only way they can lose other than a scandal is by losing a primary. But nobody votes in the primaries. Less than 15% of the people vote in the primaries. And the people that vote in the Republican primaries are often the far right, and the people that vote in the Democratic primaries are often the far left. So everybody panders to their base to try and please this small group of people because they're afraid they're going to lose a primary. There's only like 55 seats that are competitive that could go either way. And not even all of them are as competitive as like my seat is. I have, not only is it the way I am as a person, but I have to listen to everybody. If I don't listen to everybody, there's no way I could possibly win. I can't just try and do the line for one group or the other. So I'm the co-chair, as you mentioned in my bio, of the Problem Solvers Caucus. It's 50 members of Congress. It's pretty evenly divided between Democrats and Republicans, and we meet to try and find common ground on things. Now, right now, it's very hard because the environment is so toxic, because the administration and the majority in Congress are trying to just do it all by themselves. It's all kind of like my way or the highway. There's no negotiations going on. They're just trying to ram it through on their own for as long as they can. At some point, that's going to fall apart. It may fall apart during what's known as the reconciliation process we're doing right now, because there's so many controversial things in it. When that falls apart, I hope to be there with this group to say, okay, let's make a deal. Let's do something. Let's do something. My number one issue is immigration. I want to secure the border. I want to fix the broken asylum system, and I want to treat people like human beings. The border is a lot better now than it was before, but it's not permanent. It's only by executive order. You need to have legislation passed to make it permanent. And one of the big things I want to push is that you can't seek asylum in between the ports of entry. Right now, that's one of the things that you see when the people streaming over, they cross the river and you see all these people lined up like that. That's people, the Democrats and Republicans have to stop fighting each other and think of who our common enemy is. Our common enemy are the cartels and the organized crime, what they call the coyotes. They get paid $8,000 to $10,000 per person to bring people through a very dangerous trek to the southern border, and then they tell them how to game the system to beat the asylum system. So 85% of the cases that people seek asylum are denied. Okay, they're denied. But it takes 6 to 8 years to resolve those cases because the system is so overwhelmed with people seeking asylum. So I'm 62. So in the 1980s, when somebody sought asylum, somebody from the Soviet Union or from Cuba came to America and said, I defect, I seek asylum. We were like, yes, come on in. We're right, they're wrong, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. Come to America. That's terrible in the Soviet Union. That's terrible in Cuba. Come to America. The purpose of asylum is not because you're trying to seek a better life for economic reasons. But what happens is if you come to the southern border and you say, I have a credible fear that I'm going to be killed or persecuted or tortured or arrested or whatever in my country, then you pass the credible fear test, and then it's got to go through a big, long process, and that's what takes 6 to 8 years to do it. So Biden, at the end of his term, at my urging after I won my special election, along with a Republican, we signed a joint letter. I said, cut off asylum applications in between the ports of entry. And he did that, and it actually, you saw the numbers come down. Trump has really done it even more so. So we have to fix that broken asylum system. I've proposed that what we do is we have foreign and remote application centers where there are places all throughout the world where if you want to seek asylum, you go apply for it in another country where it's safe, and while your case is pending, you stay there. If you get accepted, you come to America. If you don't get accepted, you stay there. You go somewhere else. So there's a lot more pieces to it. But so when you poll the American people and you say, what do you care about? What are the issues you care about the most? You know what they say? The economy, immigration, taxes, crime, and healthcare. Those are the things that people say they care about the most. When they say, what do the Democrats care about? Yes, the same people. What do you think the Democrats stand for? They say choice, LGBT, healthcare, democracy, and climate. So now I'm not saying those are all important issues, but that's not what the people are concerned about right now.
Right.
They're concerned about affordability in the economy. They're concerned about immigration. They're concerned about public safety. They're concerned about taxes, and they're concerned about healthcare. Well, healthcare is the one that crosses over between the two. So my party's got a problem in that it's not talking to the people about the things that they care about the most. So I'm actually working on trying to get my party to do that. There's also another problem that exists. The media is completely fractured. It's not the way it was when most of you in this room, other than the kids, were growing up. Okay? It used to be we had traditional media. You had Newsday, maybe you read the Post, maybe you read the New York Times or the Daily News. You had Channel 2, 4, and 7. You had, maybe you watched cable news. You had the local weekly papers. You had traditional media. That's only a small part of the media now. Then you have social media. And often with social media, the more extreme things you say, the more followers you get, the more likes you get, the more small dollar donations you get. It incentivizes people to be crazy. And it's nobody checking what you're saying to make sure that you're actually telling the truth. There's no fact checking. Then you have podcasts. This is a new thing. There's thousands of them. Of the top 500 podcasts, 400 of them are right-leaning. 100 are left-leaning, and of the 100 that are left-leaning, 50 of them beat the you-know-what out of the Democrats. So then you have a fourth thing, you have national media. And then you have something really important to focus on, which is ethnic media and these group chats of like WeChat and WhatsApp and stuff like that, where there's a lot of conspiracy stuff that goes through that, and there's nobody there to really check what it is. What is that? So not only do we have...
Can I slide down the pole? No.
So this fractured media environment is a very dangerous thing that we have to all guard against, okay? Because between the primary system, with politicians pandering to their base, that's incentivizing us to all say, small groups of people I should say, to say more extreme stuff that we all get mad at each other. Then you have social media, again, incentivizing this extremist, polar opposite type of feelings towards each other. Then you have cable news, which cable news, whenever everything's said and done, is a relatively new phenomenon. The most watched show on cable news used to be Tucker Carlson. He had 5 million viewers, okay? On CNN or on MSNBC, they got like 2 million viewers, okay? It's 350 million people in America. It's a relatively small group. But that's where a lot of the stuff that comes, their job is not to educate you about the issues. They try to entertain you, keep you agitated, and keep you excited, so you'll keep your eyes watching, so they can sell prescription drugs, MyPillow, and adult diapers. So, and then the thing we have to be most concerned about, primaries first, and extremism, social media, cable news, and then the thing we have to be really concerned about are foreign adversaries. The Russians, Chinese Communist Party, Iran, others, use our social media, use our freedom of speech, and they put the most extreme messages out there and they promote them. They don't care who wins the fight. They just want us fighting with each other. They like when we're fighting with each other. They win when we fight with each other. So they take an issue that's a real issue that people are fighting about, Black Lives Matter versus Blue Lives Matter, abortion and gays versus evangelicals, Gaza, Israel, whatever the issue may be. They take those issues and they pump them up on both sides so that we just get mad at each other. As long as we're all mad at each other, we don't get anything done. So they want us to be mad at each other. They want us to be fighting with each other. They don't want us agreeing with each other, because the more that happens, the stronger they get. And while we're all busy divided with each other. And while we're divided also, we don't change anything. How many years have we been talking about the same issues over and over again? okay? Healthcare, guns, climate change, you know, what?
Salt.
I'll talk about salt in a second. But all these big issues, as long as it stays the same, the people that benefit from the status quo are happy. They want it to stay the same because they benefit from the status quo. So they like it that we're all fighting and not agreeing with each other, because then if it doesn't change, they continue to benefit from the current system. So he asked about SALT, okay? State and local tax deduction. State and local tax deduction. America didn't have an income tax originally, okay? Lincoln tried to do it during the Civil War, and in about 1913, I think it was, we set up the federal income tax code. When we said we're going to tax people's income, the governors and the mayors said, we don't want you to tax people's income. Because if you tax their income, we're not going to have the money for the state and local taxes for the stuff that we do, which is the important stuff. We pick up the garbage, we do the sewers, we do this. We don't want a federal income tax code. You keep on doing it the way you've been doing it with tariffs and things like that. So they said, no, don't worry about it. We understand, we respect state and local rights. We're going to create a state and local tax deduction. So you can deduct the money you paid in state and local taxes from your income, so you don't get taxed on the taxes you've already paid. That was in place for 100 years, until 2017, when they passed that tax bill, when they capped the state and local tax deduction at $10,000. That was a gut punch to us in New York, and especially here on Long Island, because we have high property taxes, and we have high income taxes compared to other states. And a lot of people have moved away because they are paying these high taxes and they can't sustain it anymore. So when I was in Congress before, I passed the law 3 times through the House of Representatives to once repeal the cap completely, go back to the way it used to be. You could deduct as much as you want. Second time, same thing. Third time, said we'll raise the cap from $10,000 to $80,000. You can't deduct above $80,000. But we couldn't get it through the Senate. And we had a deal to get it through the Senate, and that's when Joe Manchin, blew up that deal. I don't know if you remember that whole thing, but
Virginia.
the whole thing fell apart. So we never got it through the Senate. So now Trump comes during the campaign in 2024. He goes to the Nassau Coliseum, and he says, and we're going to get SALT back. I'm going to work with the Democratic governors and the mayors and the members of Congress, and we're going to get SALT back. And everybody clapped. It's Long Island. Everybody's very happy. And now the rubber's hitting the road, and they're saying they only want to increase it from 10,000 to 15,000 or 30,000 if you're married. And there's 5 Republicans that are standing up and saying that's not good enough. The 2 guys on Long Island, Lolota and Garbarino, Lawler from Westchester, Tom Kaine from New Jersey, and a woman named Young Kim from California. And they need all their votes. And they're saying, we're not giving our vote unless you do better than that. And that's going to be a big fight over the next couple days, or the next week or 2. So something's going to happen. Now, if the whole deal falls apart, which I don't think it's going to all fall apart, but if it all falls apart, then they don't do the 2017 tax bill again, and it goes back to full repeal. But I don't think it's going to happen. Plus, we would lose what's called the AMT, adjusted minimum tax, which is very bad for us on Long Island as well. So people do not understand because nobody talks to each other. Everybody's yelling and screaming. Every problem we face in America is complicated. Okay? Every problem in the world is complicated. But in America, okay? If it was easy, anybody who says, why don't you just? Doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. Okay? There's no why don't you just. So, what was the point I was going to make now? Huh? What?
It's too many.
Oh yeah, no, how expensive. Yeah. So, people don't talk to each other. Okay, you can't solve a complicated problem in an environment of fear and anger. Okay, it's impossible. You can't do it in your house. You can't do it in your business. If everybody's yelling and screaming at each other, you can't find common ground to solve a problem. So you need people who may disagree with each other, be on each side of the table and say, well, I think this, well, I think that, well, how about this, well, how about that? And you got to try and find common ground to try and get something done. But that doesn't happen because everybody's mad at each other. We don't understand what it's like in other parts of the country, and they certainly don't understand us. So when they first passed the cap on salt, I had a woman call me up. She's a nurse. She worked overtime every week, it's like 60 hours a week. Her husband was a retired supermarket worker, and between the 2 of them, they made $160,000 a year. They lived in like a $550,000, $600,000 house in Huntington Station, and their taxes went up because they lost the state and local tax deduction. Instead of everybody's talking about taxes going down, their taxes went up. And they live in this house, and the second floor bathroom is leaking down to the first floor, and they can't afford to fix it because they took out a bunch of college debt for their kids. And the lady's crying to me on the phone about it, and I brought her in. I actually brought my accountant. It was like, I was trying to see, does she have a lot of credit card bills? Or is she going, is she going out to dinner or big vacations or something like that? None of that stuff. She just, her taxes went up, and she's trying her best, and so I tried to explain this to a friend of mine who's an Oklahoma Republican senator. And he looks at me, he goes, $160,000, $550,000 or $600,000 house. He says, if you were in Oklahoma like that, you'd be living in a gated community, you'd probably have an in-home movie theater, and you would belong to the country club. So people think that everybody on Long Island, if you're a police officer and a teacher in a household, or if you're a union carpenter and an electrician in a household, you're making $100,000, $120,000, $150,000, $180,000 between a husband and wife. They think you're rich in the rest of the country. And you are rich if you're in Oklahoma, or if you're in North Dakota, or if you're in Iowa. They don't understand that these people have higher taxes, higher home values, higher utilities. Now, why are our taxes so much higher here in Long Island or in New York than other places? And I've run for governor twice on trying to reduce taxes because they're too high. But why are they so much higher than other places? Well, one of the main reasons is we have the lowest rate of uninsured children and the lowest rate of uninsured adults in America. Texas and Florida have the highest rates of uninsured children and uninsured adults in America. We pay our teachers and our cops way more than they do in other places in the country. They don't believe in unions in most of the places in the country, okay? In 20 states in America, the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. So if you think about it, if you make $10 an hour and you work 40 hours a week and you work 50 weeks a year, you get 2 weeks vacation, you make $20,000 a year. If you make $15 an hour and you work 40 hours a week and you work 50 weeks a year, 2 weeks vacation, it's $30,000 a year. You can't buy a house, educate your kids, pay for health insurance, and retire on $20 or $30 or $40,000 a year. It's impossible. And what's happened in our country is that a lot of people are trying to make it. They're trying to work hard, but they just can't make it, and they're pissed off. And that's one of the reasons Trump became as popular as he did. To speak in a populist way. That's why Bernie Sanders was popular. Speak in a populist way, because people are just upset. So what happened was, in the 1980s, for those of you that are my vintage, we were worried about the Japanese and the German car companies. They were eating our lunch. They were taking over the economy in America. And there was a famous paper written by a guy named Milton Friedman and a whole bunch of other stuff. And he said, don't worry about the employees. Don't worry about the community you're in. Just take care of the shareholder, and everything will be okay. We'll make a lot of money, and everything's going to be all right. And we did that. And we made a lot of money. The Dow Jones has gone up 2,500%. The GDP, gross domestic product, has gone up 1,500%. But workers' wages have not gone up. They've gone up like 20%. So we made a lot of money, but we didn't share it with the people that work every day. It was all kind of at the top. So, you remember the movie,
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, Gung Ho. I was in.
Gung Ho, yeah.
You know, who knows the movie Gung Ho with Michael Keaton with the Japanese car company? Remember that one? Yeah. So that was what was happening. But then you remember the movie Wall Street? Okay, Michael Douglas. Greed is good. If we're going to buy up these companies, we're going to take them, we're going to sell this all, we're going to do this. Greed is good. Then the movie Pretty Woman with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. Okay, remember the guy George Costanza? You know what's his name? The guy, Jason Alexander is the actor. He works with Richard Gere, and they're going to take over the old man's company, and they're going to buy it, and they're going to break it up into little pieces. They're going to move it. He said, but Ralph Bellamy, the actor, he says, but 3,000 people will lose their jobs, and they will destroy the whole town. He said, yeah, but we'll make a lot of money. That's what happened all over America during the whole globalization, mergers and acquisition movement. And you left behind these hollowed out communities with polluted sites, People lost their jobs, they lost their health insurance because they weren't in the union anymore, they lost their benefits, and now their communities are hollowed out, their churches are empty, nobody goes to the Elks Club anymore, nobody goes to the Rotary Club anymore, you know, the kids are doing methamphetamine or fentanyl, and they're pissed off. They're miserable because they can't make it. Somebody has a problem, a mental health problem, or a drug and alcohol problem, you get in an accident or something, you don't have health insurance. So all these people, there's a general unhappiness of people in many parts of our country that have been left behind. So we've got to get back to the basics of figuring out how do we get people in the middle class to get a raise? How do you, people who aspire from the lower class to the middle class, how can we reward hard work? Because everybody in America, whether you're a left-wing progressive or a right-wing conservative, everybody in America should believe that in return for working hard, I make enough money so I get a good life. Everybody should believe that. And everything we should be doing in our country right now should be focused on that basic message. How do we reward hard work and get people so they can have a decent life again? Because the American dream is very simple. I make enough money so I can buy a house, educate my kids, pay for health insurance, and retire without being scared. And that's what not enough people in our country have right now. So there's all kinds of stuff going on in Washington. There's a lot of stuff I'm unhappy with. I don't like a lot of the way the cuts were done through DOGE. You know, they started $2 trillion they said they were going to do. That was $1 trillion. Now it's down to $150 billion, and they're going to end up losing a bunch of money in lawsuits and the people they fired and then rehired. Okay. So do I think government is waste, fraud, and abuse? Yes, there absolutely is. I saw it in Nassau County when I was county executive. I reduced the workforce from 8,500 down to 7,000. There's all kinds of waste, fraud, and abuse in government. But you don't do it by firing the lowest wage people. You do it by when people retire at the highest wages, you don't replace them, and you put in new procedures and processes, and you put in technology, and you try and make the system better than it was before. Right now, what they're doing is a bad plan. That's why Musk is out now. You tell me how to go? Give those coins to those kids. So,
Tom, what advice would you give us here?
the advice I can give to you here is if you're frustrated, I want to be involved, get involved in the local elections, okay? Don't wait, don't fret. Worrying is not a good use of your emotions. It's non-productive and you'll go crazy. Whenever you get anxious, do something. Always just do something. If you're anxious, do something about the thing that's making you anxious. And so I would recommend that right now we're in the town of North Hempstead, right? So get involved in the town of North Hempstead race. Get involved in the county executive race, because that's the game in town right now. And that's what's happening. And get involved in your local stuff. Whatever you want to do, get involved locally and try and make it, because that'll have an impact on what happens next year. And you just gotta write a letter to the local paper. It actually makes a big difference. Right now, the people that are involved are the people at these extremes. The people that put all the energy into the campaigns are the people that are the most agitated, and that's pulling us apart. We got to be pulling ourselves together and figure out how to move forward. So we got to fight against the things that we think are bad. We got, there's a lot of stuff I don't like about this administration. Okay, I'm very concerned about due process. I'm concerned about the DOGE stuff. I didn't like the tariff thing. I got businesses that came to me and said, "Listen, I ordered this stuff from China. I do some business with these guys from China every year. The stuff is on the container. If you pay $100 for it, it's now $245. But I'm already selling it for $150. So, give me a break. I mean, it's already on the container." So it was very poorly implemented. But are there good things? I'm happy that we're going after China, because China is trying to beat us. And what they do to their own people, the Chinese Communist Party, to the group called the Uyghurs. Who's ever heard of the Uyghurs? Raise your hand if you've ever heard of the Uyghurs. They're like these people, there's a minority community, Muslim community in China, that they actually put in forced labor camps. And they took over Hong Kong, and then what they do to the Tibetans, and they're threatening Taiwan. And they're trying to beat us. They want to beat us. So am I happy that we're calling attention to that? Yes. Do I think Europe has to pay more of its fair share? Yeah, but they're still our allies. We shouldn't be treating our allies the same as we treat our adversaries. There should be a big difference between the two. Do I think the border needs to be secured? Yes, the border needs to be secured, but you got to do it. You you can't abandon the basic values that we have in America. There's a way to do it in a way that can make us safe and secure our border without treating people like they're not human beings. You know, immigration to me is like, you know, when I look at America, that's my whole family story. Is like, that's why I define America, immigration, the American dream. And the fact that it's become such a big negative is terrible. I apologize, I gotta go take a plane. Everybody, thank
Ladies and gentlemen, give me a couple more minutes, have a couple of announcements. Again, one more time for Congressman Suozzi.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Nice job.
First off, I want
Nice job.
Thank you.
Nice job.
First off, I want